This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Ben's taking a nap.
I'm tired.
We're going to wait to get started until he wakes up.
I know. These are our favorite episodes. No offense, guest.
Yeah.
When we get to just sit, talk, chillax, talk smack, not talk smack.
Do nothing.
But we've always said that we're going to keep coming on every few episodes, do a little brief recap, and then kind of just flow. Freestyle,
sure.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
I'll start us.
Do it.
Last few episodes, we've had an array of different people. We had a
Jesse, four-time
Super Bowl champ, which for Manny, he was super stoked. For me, it was really cool to hear. I mean, I like football, but I'm not in love with football.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, to compete at that high of a level and to have the success he did, that's just freaking insane. I don't care what sport it is. He could have been the four-time
ice skating
something, and it's dude, that's so sick. You competed at the highest level and it's the Super Bowl, dude. Everyone watches the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But so we had four-time Super Bowl champ. We had Byron. Jesse Sapolu. And then we had Byron, which for me was selfishly just such an awesome one because former Marine, and then just an all-around modern-day badass, and talking about what he does with the protecting stuff. And I found it was just so fitting for this season of life we've been in the last couple years. And it was just selfishly, like I said, I loved listening to him because I've always wanted to get into that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But even I follow him now, and even the stuff that he posts and breaking down
it's
the
cool.
videos, and I'm oh, that's rad.
We could talk about his a little bit more too, and
For
Jesse's.
sure.
But then we had an upcoming fighter,
Elijah.
Kid's doing his thing, just keeping his head down and just trying to fight and do whatever. Who else did we have?
Mark on from Everwell.
Mark, my boy Mark,
That was
Mr.
our
TRT.
last four. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool too, though.
Oh, I didn't even tell you. I told him yesterday or 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
I've had two people specifically ask me about getting an appointment with him because they listened to the episode and found out that I go there.
That's awesome.
And so it was one of those things, I think, where you're it's a taboo thing. You always hear TRT or hormones, right? And you're oh no, I'm not a weightlifter. I don't need that. But you don't realize that it's way more than just that.
How much it controls.
Yeah.
your
So
body.
it was super cool because they asked me about it, and I'm supposed to group text them today actually. So I just reminded myself.
But I think, like I said in the episode, there's a lot of. It's a very taboo subject because people have abused it.
For sure.
They haven't used it how it is. It's like anything, if you overeat, you could eat the healthiest food, and if you overeat, you're gonna be unhealthy.
Yeah.
So it's like anything.
I know it was funny because that was the quietest you've ever been on an episode.
Because I was literally listening. I've gotten people that are were you not that into it, or did you not like it?
I told you Mark asked me. He's I don't think he liked it.
No, I was genuinely learning because I've always been interested in it, especially post fighting. Because I was I can probably take it now and just see what I can do.
Yeah.
And see how it helps me, but. Yeah, I was genuinely learning because I like listening, and I'm not, when I don't know something, I tend to be more quiet, and I tend to try to listen more, and he was just giving out pointers after pointers after pointers and just info, and I was like, this is legit.
I told him he should come back on and actually
100%.
We'll talk about the science of it though.
Yeah. Because
again, now that we're talking about his episode first, that was the recap. Those were the
last
few, right?
four. Yeah.
Right. So with Mark's, dude, he every time I go in there and if I ask a question, it's dang, dude, I just got a science lecture in the best way because he wants to give you all the information he can give you. And you know, like for men listening, it's still weird for me, but now I'm past that, where it's more so like I don't care because I can see what it's doing for me. But you know, I prefaced it the other day when I was talking to these other guys. I was like, yo, if you're looking for like a Captain America shot, like that's not what this is. You know, I'm sure you can go to another doctor or another clinic and they'll give you the Captain America doses, but that's not what they're doing here. They're doing it to make sure your body's just producing what it should naturally be producing. But through that, dude, like I was kind of embarrassed the first few times. Like George would come talk to me and be like, hey, how's TRT? And I'd be like, dog, shut up.
Yeah,
I don't want these people to know. And it's more so like I think for me it was more of like because of the misconception and the taboo-ness of it.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to be like, oh, he's like trying to get jacked. You know, I'm like, no, bro, I'm just trying to like live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's, you know, it's your pride as like a guy. You know, like when I was talking to these other two guys, and if you guys are listening to this again, it's like one of those things where like I had to have that realization one day that I was like, dude, my body as a male's not doing the things that it should be doing. And that's embarrassing, right? Like as a guy, like if you've lost like certain drives as a male, or you feel like when you're working out, like you have no testosterone going through your body, like those things as a male is like hard to talk about, you know, because you're kind of embarrassed about it. And so I think when I first started, I mean, still to this day, I'm not blasting on there that I'm like going and getting TRT.
No, but I think it's cool because everyone, just like anything else, sorry to cut you off, it's everyone has their own journey through it and their own story. And like you being a veteran and being shot with God knows what when you were in there.
Serious.
It's like it affected you different.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things, maybe you can't attribute it to just that or pinpoint it to just that one thing. But if this therapy is helping you, now you're just a testament to it, and you can help other people going through the same thing.
Well, dude, I'd be curious to see if I texted a lot of my Marine buddies that I served with, not even just the ones I served with, but just military guys in general that have had to go through the amount of like shots and anthrax vaccinations and sleeping next to burn pits where there's lithium batteries and all this crap, you know, that quote unquote doesn't happen because that's how they say, you know, you're not supposed to do that, but you're not supposed to have trash, so figure it out. I would be really curious to see what their levels and stuff are like, because I've never done steroids or anything like that, and I'm not just saying that to say that, like I've genuinely never did it. So when Mark got my results back, I was like, dude, I've never done any of this stuff. How can this happen? That was my genuine like thought, you know, like I was like, I've never done any of that. How does that happen? I mean, I've done stuff like from Kingdom, you know, stuff you could buy over the counter, like, you know, test boosts and stuff like that to like try to give you like that boost during a lifting season. But nothing, that was about it. I never even did any of that trend stuff. I didn't even know what trend was until I came home from the Marines. And every dude that was small before I left was now jacked. I was like, what the heck? How do I get that? I'm just kidding.
Hook me up.
But yeah, dude, I would be super curious to have some of these vets go and genuinely like do it to just find out. Like it's crazy. Like I got on a veteran tangent recently with a couple people at the Santa Ana shop, and we were talking about, I was like, dude, it's something that's so messed up, like the VA healthcare system. They're trying to improve it supposedly, but dude, it's such a flawed and messed up system that it's people like me that don't have the patience to deal with it, and I don't have any quote unquote serious health conditions that require me to go. Like I won't go to the VA because I absolutely despise it, and I feel like I'm going to lose my temper every single time I go there. I'm gonna be like Jesus when he's walking in the temples and just throwing tables, because it's like, dude, that place is like, it's depressing. It's the level of care that you get, in my experience, has been horrendous. You know, I once had fractured my foot and tore the tendons in my right foot.
Say that laughing,
dude. Because I'm laughing at the story. Because, you know, I have a lot of buddies that are like, oh, you're always so broken. You're so soft. And I'm like, go through what I went through, then come back and talk to me. But I had broke my foot, or fractured and tore the tendons in my foot, not break. I wish it was just a break. But I I call the VA to schedule my appointment, and my dad always would be like, just walk into the emergency room. They can't reject you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Dad, back then I didn't have the tolerance and the patience. So I was like, I'll schedule my appointment. By the time they got me in for an appointment, they sent me one of those little black space boots in the meantime. So I put the space boot on, but I had to keep working. We just started in-house, so I had to keep working. But by the time they got me in for my appointment, my foot had healed already, but it healed wrong. Because I don't know if I didn't have the boot on right. Plus, I wasn't resting. I was still working. And it healed wrong. So the VA's explanation was, let's re-break it and so it could heal right. And I was like, no, I'm not spending another 6 months out because of your guys' ignorant freaking ability to see me. And, so that's I just went on a tangent of how crappy the VA healthcare system is. But I would be really curious to see all the vets that I served with, like what their levels are like. Because, dude, I'm so convinced to this day that a lot of my health issues stem from some of the stuff that we did. And
especially if you didn't have any of those symptoms before or any issues before you went.
But some people have said, but you were still so young. I was like, true. I was only 18 before I went in, 19 before I started getting shot up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
But still, I didn't have lung issues back then. I didn't have heart issues back then. Again, maybe it's because I'm older in life and obviously all that other stuff, but it's just crazy. So
yeah, but that was the biggest difference, was you going into the military, getting shot up, being exposed to a bunch of things.
And since then, I've never put another thing in my body since, because I'm convinced that all that stuff is kind of what sparked
for sure
all of this. And so
they have data behind it. It's not like you're alone.
Yeah. And the thing that sucks now though is, so like the TRT was such a big deal for me, because I even told Mark, I was like, yo, I am so picky with what I put in my body. And here's why. And I explained kind of what I just said to him with like the VA stuff, and he was like, no, I totally get that. But he was like, this isn't like I'm adding some naturally made synthetically made thing.
Yeah.
He was like, your body naturally produces testosterone.
Let me ask our assistant to get the water. Okay.
But dude, it's just like one of those things where you're just like, interesting. But so Mark's episode was really good. I would love for him to come back on and really talk about the science behind it. So because I'm still learning.
Me too, Mark. Don't think I didn't like you.
But yeah, we'll have him come back on and really talk science. And he's not a doctor, so he always wants to be super careful and let that be known. But one of the things I really like about him is he's just honest. Like he'll tell you
all that information's out there too. Yeah, you can't say that like, go do your own research. But there's guys that grew up that were the dumbest person in the room that are multimillionaires now. So it's like, if go get self-educated, go read your books, surround yourself with the right people, and then go and make something of it. You know, life is. We were talking about some things before we started recording, and to me, it's just like there's so many cool ventures, and like, yes, business is business, but when you're dealing with people, if you're a good, like, it's really funny. I was the wrestling coach at the high school I coach at for a season, and I was talking to Mark Munoz about it, and I was like, bro, I am not a wrestler. Like, why do I have this? And then him and his wife were talking to me, and Christy, and Christy brought up a good point. She goes, if you're a good coach, that's going to translate to other sports. All the technical stuff you can bring in for people. So I think when you go into different ventures, it's like, if you're a good businessman, if you're a good person, if you're a good leader, you can kind of lead that ship. Like you can learn all the other things, all the intangibles, like the way you were talking about being involved with this other thing that's only going to help your existing business. And I was like, man, that's such a smart way to think of just everything in general. Like, I'm going to go get involved in something so that it can help me in the long run, because this is what I want to do over here. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like, it's a smart way to look at things and to think about things, because I think it translates to other fields is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because
the principles are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I have to go pee.
I know, hurry up. And then, like, even the one thing I did want to touch on with, like, Jesse's episode, to me that stood out was not only, like, he obviously had a lot of really cool points and interesting points with, like, being a father and how much that meant to him and how the Super Bowls aren't important, all that good stuff. To me, though, what stood out was when he said, like, when human beings all are kind of working towards the same goal and set a standard for themselves as a team, like the things that they can accomplish. I was
like the caliber of that team.
Dope.
Could you imagine just being in there?
Oh yeah, I mean it's insane. That's why I asked them, like, having all these people, like, you know, like how was it, like, being involved with all these different people and having Joe Montana and Ronnie Lott and Steve Young and Jerry Rice and all these Hall of Famers on one team. Not only that, but Bill Walsh as your head coach, and having his storied career and his leadership there is like that isn't it has to motivate you. It has to push you.
It would make you want to be better.
Yeah. The week where they're gonna weed themselves out, you know, they're either gonna get traded or they're gonna leave or get cut.
Dude, just the fact you play with Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Not even being like a hardcore football person. Joe Montana.
He's like, arguably the greatest, maybe
all time.
other than Tom Brady. You know, that's a big debate. Is the two is like Joe Montana.
Worlds. Two different worlds.
It is, and I'm a Raiders fan, so to me, Joe Montana is the greatest.
I hate when people try to compare athletes, like when it's
a different era.
Yeah, like when you try to compare Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant, like
Kobe borrowed a lot of his moves.
And not discrediting like the Kobe or discrediting Michael either, but the sport back then was not the sport that it is now.
No.
The guy's caliber
the level of athlete.
It's just like everything. Everything progresses and gets better. So it's like with hockey, like the goalie's pads now cover the entire freaking net. So the guys to score at the rates that they're scoring, you can't compare Wayne Gretzky to these guys. Like Wayne Gretzky shot on goalies that didn't even really have pads or a helmet on yet. So you had a lot of things
really?
to shoot.
I didn't know that.
So you can't compare. Like, was Wayne Gretzky one of the greatest of all time? Yes. Was Joe Montana one of the greatest of all time? Yes. Was MJ one of the greatest of all time?
But he can still hang. That kid, can Wayne Gretzky still, with his type of play, can he still hang with the type of play that the NHL has now?
Yes, but I don't think he would be.
He wouldn't score as much. He wouldn't be like the
it's
scoring
impossible.
leader.
Yeah, it's impossible because he would still probably put up a lot of cool, like, crazy numbers.
Yeah.
But it would be impossible to do some of the stuff he did.
I think if you interviewed him, though, he'd probably be like, I'd figure a way.
No way, man. There's no way. Because just like the technology, like of the sticks that they use now compared to what he was using. He was just using like a freaking solid wood stick.
Well, yeah, even like now, fighting, there's so much science behind it now.
Yeah, because they can break things down. They can tell you where
like your heart rate and how much you're going to lose and how long it's going to take you to lose weight.
Exactly. Like how to breathe during your 1 minute off. Like
everything.
That's why it's like when people try to compare things, you're like, bro, you can't compare. Or like comparing business. Like, let's say business. Comparing a business now compared to a business like 50 years ago when they didn't have the ability to run their business from this phone.
Yeah.
Like, to think about what they did in business back then is... I feel like it has the reverse effect on me, at least. Like, to see what some of the business did back then without this technology, I'm like, holy crap, where would they be if they had this technology platform, you know? But it's always hard to compare because they're two different worlds, but we always like to compare. Jesse's for me was super cool just to listen, to be around, like you. I think you said it at one point, but like you might just said it too now, but like for someone that was surrounded by so much greatness, like that's something that's so cool, you know, and that's just awesome. And he was such a nice guy.
We talked to him for at least an hour before,
literally for a while,
and after.
Yeah,
like
we were with him for like 4 hours.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then
we had, who else did we had? We had Mark, Byron, we had Elijah.
Yeah, Byron was dope, dude. Byron's
was exciting.
I texted him the other day. Or messaged him the other day and we were talking, which is so cool because before he came on, maybe he would never saw my message.
Yeah.
But now that, you know, how Instagram always like, if you talk to someone, you're going to see it now.
It's not like in the request or hidden
or
whatever.
So, you know, I was talking about like getting some of my gear set up. He's like, yeah, dude, you need to come to this training. That's what it's for, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to try to get signed up for one of his trainings.
That's awesome.
But, dude, so many cool avenues and cool guests that we've had. And it's all through this podcast. But you know what you should share? You should share your story that you're talking about before we started about your fighting and a coach, because that goes along the lines of Jesse. And
kind of like,
But while you do that, let me go pee.
Yeah, go for it.
Talk about it.
No, I'll talk. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, just about how Jesse had mentioned that when he was coaching, you know, he would see, because he was sharing his journey and how he got in trouble before he found football, and just how he had one coach help him out and like look out for him and make sure that he was in class and make sure that you know, that he was making the most out of his opportunities. And that to me really stood out, because I never thought about coaching in that way, as far as like, hey, you know, let's help out these kids, and they all have, you know, they all have their own journey and their own things they're going through, but to have a 4-time Super Bowl champion come out and say, yes, like, I struggled, I got in a lot of trouble, and he was dealing with a lot of self-confidence issues and things like that, and for him to say that he had like one coach that helped him, or like, because he supported him, it gave him that confidence to want to go compete. And like I was saying earlier, like, I never looked at coaching in that way, to be like, oh, I'm coaching this kid, he reminds me so much of myself, or you know, if I had someone like that, and I did. What the guy I coach for now, Chad Johnson, who's our head coach, him and Jason Negro, who's now the head coach at St. John Bosco, I remember them sitting down with me before my senior year, because I used to get in a lot of fights, and I'd gotten in trouble that summer. So I got expelled my freshman year for fighting. And it wasn't like, hey, you could come back. It was like, hey, you're now going to this continuation school.
Silverado?
It wasn't even Silverado. No. Oh. It was called Horizons.
Oh, Horizons. That was
so I would go like once a week. I'd get a homework packet and then get sent home.
Dude, I did Miramonte.
Yeah, they're similar.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And so I got in trouble for that, and like, my life was gone. Like, I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends. Obviously, they were in school. Just all this stuff. And I had begged my parents, like, you know, I love football. I need to try to go back and play. Did all right my sophomore year. My junior year, I got some playing time, but played both JV and varsity. And then going into my senior year, like, I knew, like, I was going to be the starter. I was like, no one's going to take this from me. But I still hadn't grown up with my behavior. I was still kind of maturing. And I got into a fight that summer, and they sat me down and were like, hey, you don't run this school. Like, you are not, stop trying to be a tough guy. Stop trying to, like, we don't know what you're going through. Essentially talk me out of, like, hey, you have an opportunity to go play, make some memories, blah, 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 right? And I listened to them, and that impacted me in a huge way, because I was like, there's more to life than just this.
Yeah.
You know, than just trying to be this tough guy and trying to be a fighter. And it's ironic that eventually I became a professional fighter, and then one of the Mr. LeBlanc, or I Coach LeBlanc as I later knew him, who was the Dean of Discipline at Trabuco, later became one of my coaches and cornered me in one of my fights for Bellator.
That's so funny.
And then we were driving down to Pechanga, and I had driven with him, and I go, dude, don't you find this ironic? Like, you used to tell me not to get in fights in high school, and now you're about to corner me and help support me in hitting this dude as hard as I possibly can.
That is so funny.
Like, it's so weird.
But that's what's cool, though.
Yeah, it is awesome. But the point I was trying to make is that if we can be that for someone as a podcast or our guests and their stories, like we always talk about, if they can have that type of impact, you know, listening to a story, and then they can get something out of it, like to touch on that too, like in Elijah's episode, I thought one of the cool things he said was like, if he hung out and stayed with this crowd, like, he knew that path or that road was going to lead him to nothing positive.
Yeah.
And if he hung out with these people, this is going to be the outcome. And I think so many times, and not to say that it's not hard, but I think a lot of people use their
circumstances
as a crutch or as an excuse, because there's very, very good examples, great examples of someone like Richard Sherman, who played in the NFL. I mean, like him or hate him, he's going through some things right now, but he's from Compton. Like, he went to Compton High School, was obviously surrounded by drug infested area, gangs, nothing but bad news, as people would say, and got a full ride scholarship with really good grades to Stanford University.
Yeah.
It was one of the most prestigious schools in the nation.
Yeah. And at one point, he was one of the best cornerbacks.
Yes, and then played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like
cornerback, right?
Corner, yeah.
Look at me, dude. I'm a
football guy. But yeah, I think a lot of things for me were just like I would see things, because I grew up in LA till I was 12 and then moved to Orange County. So it was like my most formidable years, I guess, were later in Orange County, but we would go back to LA every weekend for family barbecues or gatherings, and it was like, that to me still felt like home. I never really felt accepted here because I became the minority. When I was over there, Huntington Park is by Compton and Cudahy and all those different areas, and it's nothing but Hispanics and Hispanics and blacks.
Yeah,
that's it. And so I literally like saw white people on TV, and then when I came here, I was like, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. It was just different. It was definitely a culture shock. Yeah, and nothing against it. I knew that I was a troublemaker. My parents literally moved here. I'm sure they wanted a better life, but they have told me like, yeah, we moved out because of you. Like, you were getting in trouble and you were headed down the wrong path.
Well, dude, that's the thing that is so powerful about investing into people, right? And you've said it like as a coach, and Jesse said it on his episode, but the ability to possibly shape someone's life by just showing them kindness or giving them an opportunity that someone wouldn't, like, I think as humans, like, that's one of the most powerful things you can give someone is an opportunity, a second look, a first look. And I think, especially like in business, I think a lot of people obviously let money and fame and power and greed get the best of them. But I've always told myself like that, no matter how big I get or how much of a failure I am or whatever it is in life, that I always want to try to like just be not in like a I'm better than you way, but just try to be an example for people, to try to always invest into people, to try to maybe do little things within my company that my employees will maybe remember, and maybe someday they're going to be the Bill Gates of the world, and they'll remember one gesture that I did and that they learned along the way and turn it into their own style and do something kind in return. And I think that's something that's just so powerful, and it's something that, is I think just so overlooked, where it's like that kind of stinks, where people just sometimes forget that. And it's like, dude, we're humans. We're meant to look after each other.
What kind of things do you do, or like to keep yourself in check, or to, like you were saying, do something with your employees to be like, hey, this is something you can do?
Well, I mean, I try to always do, for me personally, I try to just do things that show an example. Like the other day, I was picking trash up at one of the shops, and I've used this analogy so many times, but this literally just happened. I was outside on the phone and I saw trash on the ground. So while I'm on the phone, I go and pick up the trash and I bust some tables. And that one little thing, I had a couple people notice it. And it's like, oh, shoot, like, Ben shouldn't be doing that. I was like, well, I mean, I shouldn't be doing that if you're just standing around not doing anything and you're on the clock. You're right. But I also do it because that's what you do, right? Like, I'm not going to
noticed it. You noticed it, and
I'm not going to step over the piece of trash to expect my employee to do it. That's stupid. Like, you lead with example.
I think that also comes from the home, though. You were raised a certain way, and not to take anything from Jesse. Well, yes, to take something away from Jesse. Like, that standard was probably shown to you at home.
Yeah, if I walked over a piece of trash like that, my dad would have been like, go pick that crap up or you're going to get smacked. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's such a good job, because you never know, especially as parents, if you're there's no playbook. I mean, there is books and in a fantasy world and how perfect things should be and how you're going to raise your kids, but you don't know you don't know the outcome of the way you parent. You know, you're gonna do everything to the best of your ability, and obviously you're gonna read books and you're gonna talk to people that are parents and who were parents before you and try to learn, but you never know how good it's working until other people tell you. Like I remember having sleepovers when I was younger, and I was crazy, you know, as a kid, but I would go to someone else's house and be like, yes, ma'am, what can I help with? Yeah, and then my parents would get a text or a phone call. Oh my goodness, they're so respectful. They're so kind.
That's awesome.
You're like, what? Like, do that at home. And I experience that now. Like, I'd let my kids spend the night somewhere, or even my oldest son, and it's really cool. Not to put him on blast, but like he's now coaching a flag football team. One of the parents texts me and he goes, hey, coach, I want to compliment you in raising a solid young man. He's very respectful. My son, he wasn't talking about the other kids. He goes, my son is thriving under his leadership, and he really loves the sport because of his enthusiasm. And I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. Yeah. You know, and it takes a partnership. Like my wife does just as much, if not more, probably more than I do when it comes to that. And I'm like, that's really neat to see it pay off. Yeah. You know, there's like I don't want to air out anyone's dirty laundry, but there was a statement said from another coach, and they felt disrespected, and it's just funny. I won't go into detail about it, but anyways, it's funny to see where people's like maturity level is, and some of the things that they're saying, and how people handle it. You know, I think people are going to deal with adversity in a lot of different ways, and like I said, you never really know if your parenting techniques or skills are working until you hear it from someone else, you know,
which is so true. It's so true. But yeah, man, remember, be good people.
Yeah. Don't be douchebags. Is that a bad word? Like a douchebag?
I don't know. I mean, it's a nasty thing,
but I don't even know what it means. I don't think.
Well, thank you guys for continuing to help us make this possible. We always say it, but we need to start saying it all the time. But we gotta, I know it's in our intro, but we definitely need help like resharing. If you like listening to the podcast, like leave messages or comments, reshare them on social media, on the podcast platforms, like rate us, leave us reviews. And I mean, ultimately, like if you want us to like keep doing what we're doing, like we just got to keep building our following.
Yeah.
And the only way that happens without us constantly just like telling you to do it is our followers to like help us tell their friends and their family and be like, hey, listen to this podcast, download it. Because unfortunately, just like anything else in the world, unless we get 1 million people downloading us all the time, it's hard to find us unless you type in exactly word for word the Fight Within podcast. But please help us. I've learned over years where I'm not afraid to ask for people's help. Like, please help us. I mean, we're definitely growing. We're just not growing as fast as we would like because we're men and we want it now. And
and there's a lot of things that we want to do that we can't do because of the slower growth.
Yeah, slower growth, or even if it's financial, you know, like you know, if you're someone listening and you would be interested in like sponsoring us, we have like low level packages, we have high level packages. And you know, again, we say it, but not enough. Like to the sponsors we have, like thank you. It helps us do this stuff. Like, I don't know if people think like when you sponsor someone or something like this, like that Manny and I just take all the money, but no, that sponsorship money is helping us do the things we want to do to be able to grow, like redoing the website, ordering the merch that we're ordering, using the space that we're using, all that stuff. Like it takes money to do everything. So thank you guys for making it possible. But please just help us like with word of mouth, like just tell somebody to go listen to an episode. Like that's all it takes.
Well, it helps out a lot. It's not just like, hey, go listen to this. It's cool. Like it helps us to, you know, I don't care. Criticize us, say something positive.
Tell me I'm stupid.
Whatever. Just go and leave comments, reviews, rate us, all that stuff. It really does help. Share the things that we post. If you guys like it, if you don't,
then don't
go watch something else.
But my brother, it's been real. I got to go back to my real job.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well,
thank you.
This will be out, and then we'll have another one next week. So remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it.